Today I'm showing you a new addition to my Trash or Treasure series. I was down at the recycle center today to pick up some mulch, and this mower was sitting on the side. It's a Lawn Boy. It says 195 cc's. It's a 4-cycle. This looks like it was neglected. It looks like it had a lot of use. These tires are pretty worn out here. The deck is solid. There's no rot on the deck. A little bit of rust, but no rot. Definitely need a carburetor clean on this. This air filter, dirty, but I've seen worse. This doesn't look like an OEM air filter, so it was changed at one point. The compression on it when I pull the cord feels a little weak. The oil in it, there was oil, low and dirty. Didn't have any gas in it, so that's a plus. Has a blade. Doesn't look all that bad. The blade isn't bent. It's not nicked up. Again, no rot on the deck. And I believe this is self-propelled. Let's see. The handles on it. Everything's here as far as the handle. This would be for the self-propelled. Where we can see that cable. It's not putting any tension on anything. Not much anyway. So everything is here. There's nothing missing on it that I can see. The plastic looks like they had some bushes they went under. Nothing terrible. Under here, I don't see anything that's off. Now the first thing I'm going to do is bring it up to the garage, take this cover off, make sure I don't have any mouse nest underneath. I'm going to spray a little carburetor cleaner inside the carburetor, give it a couple of pulls, see if I get any popping out of it. If not, I'll check the spark on the spark plug, see if I have spark. If I have spark, if I don't get any ignition, I'll be taking this carburetor off. I'll probably be taking it off anyway just to make sure that there isn't any sediment on the bottom of the bowl, because it may start and that sediment will cause a problem later on. These wires are all connected. They're not ripped out. The ground wire for the kill. Everything is here. All I have to do now is get started. As soon as I get this cover off, make sure we're good on top, I'll be spraying the carb cleaner in there to see if we get any ignition, and we'll take it from there. I changed up on how I would normally go about this. Normally I would spray some carburetor cleaner in here, see if I get any spark. But the fact that I picked this up at the dump, I don't know what kind of condition it was underneath. First thing I did was to remove the 4 screws. Let's see, 4 screws. We have 1, 2, 3, and under the pull cord there's a screw, and that required a 1/4 inch socket. You have to remove the dipstick, and this plastic cover will come off. Once this is off, the gas tank just pulls right out. You have these clips here that go in to these slots. Up front over here, you have 2 screws, and they require a 5/16 socket. And you also have one over here. There's a screw back here holding the dipstick. Once you get that disassembled, pull this round off. Now what I was looking for is to see what kind of condition the coil is in, if the wires were chewed up, if there was any mouse nest under here, anything like that. The carburetor linkage is all together. There doesn't seem to be any problem with the carburetor linkage. This was off. What I see so far, it looks good. A little rust over here, but we'll tend to that later on. A little rust on the magnets. What I'm going to do now is just dust this off. I'm going to bring it into the garage. I'm still working in the back of the trailer. Just easier for me. I didn't have to bend down, pick it up, and lean over it. So I'm going to clean this up. Let's get this dipstick back in here. The only concern I really have about this mower, that oil's pretty black. If this machine was run really hot, this coil could be burnt. I had quite a few of these that I picked up with bad coils, and generally there'll be all kinds of grass in here and the engine got really hot. But this is clean as far as grass accumulation, so the only issue might be the oil, but everything looks like it's intact. So gonna clean this off, put this back on so I can pull start it, or better yet, I might just use the drill. It's a quick way to see if it fires up. Not the safest way and definitely not recommended. So let me clean this up, get it into the garage, and I'll be back. All right, I cleaned this up a little bit. I used a toothbrush and some gasoline, cleaned up the linkages over here, cleaned up down there, cleaned up the carburetor on the outside. This doesn't do anything to help the performance other than maybe the linkage down there where it moves freely, nothing binds it up. After I cleaned it up with the toothbrush and some gas, I blew it out with an air hose. Now, to go to my non-OSHA approved startup. You shouldn't try this at home. This is something that I do from time to time. I have a drill with a socket that'll fit this nut on the flywheel. And what I'm going to do is to spray some carburetor cleaner in here. And I use carburetor cleaner opposed to starting fluid. I feel the starting fluid is too combustible and it hurts these small engines. The carburetor cleaner is enough to get it going if it's going to go. I'm just going to spray some in here, hit it with the drill, and again, this is not to be tried at home. I'm going to hit it with the drill, see if it fires up. If it fires up, I know I have enough compression to start it and spark. Then I'll totally remove this gas tank, clean it up, check this hose, make sure there's no blockage. I'll put some gas in here and see if it starts that way. If it does, I know I'm good. I'll still take this bowl off to make sure there's nothing in there before I go through that though, just to make sure. So let me just set this camera up and look at the show on the road. Get the camera far enough away where I'm not going to wreck it. Let's see, can we see in there? All right, I think that's good enough. I think we're in view here. Again, I'm using carburetor cleaner, any brand. Oh, and the bail is tied, otherwise it won't start either way. Okay, and here, nothing on that one. Oh, nothing. Try it again. So, we don't have any ignition here. Let's see. This is wide open. Let's pull this off. Nothing. That's not good. Let's see what we got here. This is up. Everything's up, up. Give it another try. Spark plugs on. When I sprayed, it didn't start. When I hold my finger to the carb, it started, but this carburetor is wide open right now, so it just needed to choke. So I know it does start. Next step, gonna pull this plug to see what it looks like. Gonna drop this bowl to see what's in there. And once I get to that, I'll show you what I find. If you're doing this, take a picture of how the linkages are here. This doesn't have to come off, but while you're taking it off, it might just slip off, and it has to go back in a specific way. You want to make sure when you put it back that the hook is facing the right way, the hook's on the springs, that this lever is on top of this one here, and which hole it's connected to the carburetor. You can mark this with a pencil, a pen, or even scratch it. There are times when you're taking something apart, you might not be able to get back to it the same day, and a day or two later, maybe even a couple hours later, you're saying, uh-oh, where's this go? I'm going to remove this carburetor by removing these two bolts over here. I'm not sure if I can get to this one. If I can't, I'm going to have to take it off from underneath. If the camera's picking that up. And to get to that, I'm going to have to remove the muffler. Whichever direction I go, I'll be bringing this over to my carburetor table, taking this bowl off, and cleaning the inside of this out. Normally, I would have a cardboard box, like a pizza box or some kind of gift box, to work on these carburetors. This way, if a part falls off, it stays within the box, and if it drips any gas, I just get rid of the box. I'm out of boxes, but I have the small end table top that the legs were broken off and cracked over here. This will work as well. Just wanted to point this out. It looks like somebody was working on this once before. This is on there pretty snug, so there's no way that this clamp slid down from the connection on the carburetor. I'm going to open this up now and see what we have inside. First, we'll take this hose off. Want to be careful not to snap this. Okay, before I go any further, I'm going to remove this. I'm going to take this outside and clean this off so I don't get this debris inside the carburetor when I open it up. I'm done with that. I'll be back. Okay, I cleaned it up a little bit. Now I'm going to remove this bolt. It requires a 1/2 inch wrench. This way I'm not going to break anything. This came out pretty easy. I'm sure somebody was in here before. Oh, that plate that was on here, there were 2 bolts or screws that were in there. You could either use a socket or a Phillips screwdriver. The Phillips screwdriver came right out. Usually those are a little tight. Let's see what this looks like. This is your main jet. Let's see what we got in here. And it's really not bad in there. Camera in this. There's a little bit of debris. You can see it to the, if you look at the bottom and come up to the left side, you see that debris down in there. I don't see any water in the gas. Little corrosion around the edge here. Well, no, I'm not looking too bad. Okay, let's see what we have. I have to tell you, it looks like somebody was in here before. It looks like they even removed the Welsh plugs. I usually don't have kits available with the Welsh plugs, and unless I really have to get into a carburetor, I don't remove them. This is what I'm talking about, these Welsh plugs. You can tell when you put a new Welsh plug in, you fit it in and you have to smash it down. Normally they don't look that indented from the factory. So somebody was definitely in here cleaning this. And if I had to guess, this needle valve isn't an original. This looks like it's new. So somebody was definitely in here, but I'm still going to go through and clean out the way I normally would. If you've seen any of my other carburetor videos, I pointed out the holes in here that have to be cleaned out. Well, this camera's picking it up. I'm holding the camera and the carburetor at the same time, trying to get light on it. see, if you follow my thumb and go straight this way, up on the side there, you'll see a couple of holes. Trying to get a view of it, camera view of it. I'm going to finish pulling this apart. I'm going to pull out this little screw over here too. They might not have cleaned this out. Let's see. It looks like somebody was in here that knew what they were doing, because most people went in to pull those Welsh plugs out. Yep, this doesn't look clogged, but I'm going to clean it out anyway. We have the hole right here. The opening. I'm going to clean this all up, put it back together, and see if we get it to run. I have this carburetor cleaned out. Now it's time to put it back together. First, I'm going to put this jet in, not to forget it. I cleaned out all these jets. I want to point this out. This is important. This main jet has two openings on the bottom, one on each side. And usually, although I had one the other day, didn't have it. There's a small jet opening right above the threads, right here. I don't know if the camera could pick it up. And I got that wire in there. Now, a bread tie is thicker than that opening. The wire that I used to poke through that, this is a wire off a brush. And that's what I use to clean these out with. And you'll often find a carburetor that has been neglected, or gas has been left in it for too long. If it's not clogged down here, it's usually clogged in this little orifice right over here. So this is cleaned out. Now we'll put the needle and the float in. On these Tecumseh carburetors, this is the part that's facing out towards the air cleaner. On these Tecumseh carburetors, you'll have the needle and this little clip that holds it on. This just slides in and out. And the way this goes on, you slide it onto the clip under the float. And you see the way, you see this clip opening here? This clip opening faces towards the side of the carburetor that goes towards the air cleaner. Don't know why. That's just how it is in the manual. So the needle's attached to the clip's attached to the float. That's Rouge the Rooster in the background. He came in the garage to see me. This guy follows me around, or wherever I go. Alright, so now, if you can see it in there, the needle's in there, and the float, and you want to make sure this float is level. Take a look at it. You could adjust on it a little tab that's back here. On the floats that are all plastic, there's no adjustment on that. But this one does have a metal catch where it could be bent one way or the other. If you have this all together, you don't want to forget your emulsion tube. Now this looks like it should have another O-ring over here, and I didn't get it out, but when I probe down in here, I could feel something soft. I just can't get it out. So I'm just going to push this in for now. We got to get it all the way up. Let's see. There's something here. Okay, I'm going to push this down with a punch. See the way this is sticking out in here? You see the tip of it just sticking up from the bottom. That's it. That's as far in as it goes. What's left now is to put this bowl back on. You want to make sure you have your gasket on and it's snug all around. And on this carburetor, see this indentation? This is the deeper part of the bowl. When you put it on, you want to make sure this deeper part of the bowl goes over where the float moves up and down to give it room. Goes on nice and snug. Make sure it's even all around. Okay. You have your main jet. Don't forget the washer. If you do, you'll know about it because it'll leak like crazy. This main jet requires a 1/2 inch wrench to tighten it up. There you go. Nice and snug. I had to walk away to take care of something, and I'm not sure where I left off. But I have this carburetor together. This is a plate that goes on the carburetor to connect it to the air filter. Now, this gasket is on this side of it when I took it apart. But it looks like a gasket belongs in here. So either one's missing on this side, or somebody just reversed it when they put it together the first time. I'm not sure. So I'm going to put this O-ring gasket into this groove right here, like this. So this goes onto the carburetor like this. It's held on with these 2 screws. Or you could use a socket, but the Phillips screwdriver works fine with this. There wasn't any problem getting it out. There you go. You want to get this good and snug, because if you don't, an air gets in between this plate and the carburetor, you'll be sucking in air that's not going through the filter. Increases the effectiveness of the filter. So this is together. This piece here I cleaned off. This was on like this, and it gets connected to the breather on the engine. So this is all together as far as this part goes. A couple of things I want to show you on the mower. I found a couple of cracks and some rust spots. I just want to make sure it was surface rust. This down here was all surface rust. Some rust up here was all surface rust, and a few other spots. But I did find cracks. There's a crack here. This is that top piece. It only takes 2 screws to remove it. And there's a crack down in here. I'm going to make sure this runs well before I spend any time doing any welding. Once I get it together and I see that it runs, I'll come back in, clean this up, and take care of those 2 welds. Also, originally I said that this cable didn't look like it was moving anything, but it moves just enough to pull this transmission up. When the engine spins, this belt, let me get a flashlight. All right, here we go. We got some light in here now. So when you push this handle down, it pulls this cable. I'm going to tighten this up a little, but it is moving. And what it does, it pulls the transmission up. This belt is connected to the mower underneath. There's a pulley right above the blade. That looks like it might be a little bit of a challenge to change under there. But as far as I can see, this belt doesn't look bad right now. I just don't know if that transmission underneath is any good. So I'm going to put this back together, reconnect the carburetor, put some gas in it. The gas tank is totally cleaned out. Give it a couple of pulls. If it starts, we'll cut some grass. We'll see if this drive works. If that all works, I'm coming back to clean it up, do a little welding in these corners. Looks like there was a lot of stress to crack this. I don't know if you can see. It doesn't move much, but it won't take much to weld that. Just a little tack welding here, just to make sure that doesn't go any further. Once I get this together and it running, I'll be back. It looks like we have a winner. Just want to show you. I started this mower up and cut some grass with it. Just want to show you the grass I was in, and it didn't bog down. Right here. I don't know if the camera's picking it up down below. But you can see the difference in the height of the grass here. How high it is here. I just went around in a circle and came back up. I don't know if the camera's going to get the depth of it all. You can see how tall this grass is to where it's cut here and goes up. And I'm going to start it up, show you that it's working, and we even have the self-propel working. What I'm going to do now is to show you this mower running, the self-propelled working. I don't want to run it too long because it's low on oil and it's black. After I get off camera, first thing I'm going to do is to clean this all up, take care of those welds, change the oil. I have the air filter for it, and sharpen and balance that blade, and this will be ready to go. All right, here we go. I shouldn't have to prime it because it was running about 10 minutes ago. So after I take care of what I mentioned, this is ready to go. One thing I want to point out, I ran into this on a lawn boy I had a few years ago. You can't run this without this back on or a bag. See this bar that comes across? This has to be in here, otherwise you won't get any spark. I found out I had a lawn boy 2-3 years back, and I went crazy trying to figure out why there wasn't any spark. Changed coils, ruined everything. It was this piece right here. Didn't have a manual for it. So that's a wrap for now. If you found this video entertaining, useful, or have any questions, post your comments down below. Give it a like if you will. It helps a lot. And if you haven't done so, subscribe. Hit that Joe Z button at the end of this video, and be sure to hit that bell icon not to miss my new videos as I upload them. And until next time, stay safe.